Hey guys, I wanted to talk about fear of losing yourself and your identity and who you are as a person. I think that a lot of people have that fear without even knowing they have that fear. And everyone on the recovery journey, I think, is when they're struggling with their OCD fears, one of the things that they say very frequently and quite a lot is, but this is not who I am, or this is not who I want to be. Extremely common amongst people who have some kind of like moral scrupulosity or some like morality controversy kind of thing involved in their recovery journey and their themes and their fears. But before I go on, please subscribe to our channel. Please reach out to us if you need help with OCD, if you need any one to one coaching, if you want to attend our webinars. We have webinars every week on different topics. So, whatever you need, we're here for you. We can help you get through it. We've been through the journey ourselves, and we know all the steps that you need to get better. So reach out to us. There's also a WhatsApp link down below in the description. If you click that, it will take you directly to our WhatsApp chat, and you can message us and inquire more about our services. So the fear, I think, of losing who you are as a person and fear of losing your values, that's a big one in this. Is I think I had this even without knowing I had it. And it was primarily, if I think back to my A levels, O levels, and A levels, which I think for people in America or Canada would be high school, I guess. For me, that was especially like if I look back at that time when I was like from the bracket of 15 to 15 to 19, especially. I think I had a lot of these ideas of who I was starting to become as a person, right? In my mind, I was like, oh, I'm someone who is, or who needs to be at least, who needs to be polite, kind, helping, giving, generous, always a good listener, always someone who is there for other people. And I think like the overarching kind of what do you call it, like the title that I would give to myself was someone who was a helper. I think that was a huge, it started becoming like a big kind of like cornerstone ish of my personality in that way. And I really wanted to abide by it, and I really wanted to live by it. And it was, but it became, with again, without even knowing, now in retrospect I can see, I think it became kind of like this like quiet and silent obsession that, oh, I needed to be that. And that led to then a lot of, let's say, people pleasing behaviors. Like I had a hard time saying no to people. I was very agreeable. I was always very available for people, which is not a great quality, I think, in that way. Like for yourself, and I'll go a little bit more into that as well. But so I essentially was, I would mirror anything and everything people would say, and I would always be available for them. And as a result of that, I started resenting myself. I started resenting them. Like if someone would say to me that, hey, like, could you do this for me? I would be really angry at them. Not externally. Externally, I would be like, yeah, sure, I'll help you out. Internally, I would be like just really like fuming because I would be angry at them for asking me for a favor, because I was like, why are you asking me for a favor? Because I know I won't be able to say no to you, and now I have to help you, and that would make me really angry. But then I would also be angry towards myself for not being able to say no and not being able to say that, hey, I don't have the time or I'm too tired to do this. And so it would go both ways, and I think it would just like put me in this like boiling pot of just frustration and resentment towards myself and other people. And obviously then largely this personality trait of being a people pleaser wasn't that great, and it wasn't helpful for anyone. On the surface of it, it was like, yeah, I'm trying to be polite, and because I'm following my value of being a helper and being someone who is there for other people. But it was becoming detrimental. So this was something that massively, obviously I realized by the time I was 20 years old. I think I realized that this is something I needed to change, and I had to like kind of like, gosh, it's been 10 years, it's been a decade since I was in that place. But I knew that I had to really change that. And so I think changing that was a really big and monumental thing for me, because I never thought I could be someone who could even disagree with people or on their opinions. Like if someone was saying something, even if it's not controversial, I just be like, yeah, I agree with that, because I felt too uncomfortable saying I disagree with that. Or if they said they liked something, and for me to say no, I did not like it, it was really hard for me to say that. It was hard for me to say no. It was hard for me to say that, hey, I can't hang out, or I don't have the time, or I'm tired. Can we talk tomorrow? Those kind of things. Like these are very simple, everyday kind of things. It's not even being rude or letting people down in a big, massive way, but it just felt like an absolute crumbling of my identity and my friendship, as or whatever dynamic it was. It felt like a crumbling of that as a result of that. And all of this was coming from this, like, I need to be this person and that person. And working on acceptance can be extremely scary for a lot of people, especially when it comes to, like I said, themes and fears that have some moral ambiguity involved in it, and something where they feel like is going to be like bad for their personality. And as a result of that, many people are even avoiding working on recovery and acceptance, because in their mind there's this huge fear of like, oh, but I don't want to lose who I am. I don't want to lose my values. I don't want to lose my essence as a human being. You have to understand as well, because even just the idea that there's a certain identity you have is a big illusion as well. Because the person that you were maybe 5 years ago is probably not the person you are right now. There are a lot of big changes that have happened without you even knowing, because these shifts and these changes happen in a very subtle way and in a very gradual way over time, naturally, through experience, through just life changing itself, through circumstances changing, through your the your goals changing and everything. But you're not the same person. And a lot of the times the changes that happen are not even deliberate. They organically happen. OCD sufferers will even feel very triggered about that they're like, oh no, but like I need to be aware of if there's any change in me, because if there's like a bad change in me, or if there's just a change period, I need to change. I need to like take it back to who I was, back to the original place that it came from. And it becomes this like obsession to be like, I need to be this, I need to be this, I need to be this. And that is, I mean, you can only imagine how much of that latching onto a sense of identity and who you are then flows into like these like tons of compulsions as well. That's where classically for reassurance seeking and confessing come from, because reassurance seeking is like, oh, I just need to make sure that I haven't done this or that, or I'm not this sort of person, because I just want to make sure that I'm not losing my values, I'm not losing who I am as a person. Same with confessing, right? Confessing is like, oh, I feel this way or that way. And it can come from, oh, I'm an honest person. I'm always transparent. I always have open communication with the people around me. So therefore, this is like how I speak to people. I talk to them very openly about, my feelings and my thoughts. So that's why I have to confess. And even compulsions are then coming from this latching onto a certain sense of identity of who you are. And identity and who you are as a person is an absolute illusion. That concept actually does not exist. And I think, especially in a world that we live in right now, it's so um, I understand the importance, and I understand there's a time and place to be able to say who you are and what kind of person you are. But at the same time, it's also something that's become so obsessive of like adding these categories to who you are as a person. Like people will even have in their Instagram bios that what do you call that? Whatever that personality test kind of thing is, I'm forgetting the name of it, which is like, I'm an INFJ and I'm an ENTP. I don't like. I think those exist. I've done those tests myself as well. The Myers something test. I've done that myself as well. I've completely forgotten what I was. I was in. I think I was in INFJ, if I'm not wrong, but I don't even remember what that means now. Um, and like people will even write that in their bios, because then that's like, oh, this is the identity I have, and like this is who I am. People will do that with relationships, like, oh, I have the anxious avoidant personality. I'm this, I'm that. And the problem with those things are, here's what the disservice you're doing yourself over here, which is that when you attach that kind of notion of this is who I am, you're already making yourself blind to any other possibilities of behaving and thinking. And it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy as well. If you're someone who says, I have an anxious avoidant attachment style in relationships, what will happen is that you're then going to be hyper aware in a relationship of, oh, this is how I always behave. Number two, in your mind, you might not even be that pushed to change that because it'll be like, oh, this is my style, so therefore, this is how I feel, and therefore, this is how I am going to feel. And that's just my personality. I'm an anxious avoidant person. And people don't and I've seen that. I've seen people not push themselves to change those behaviors because that identity has become the new kind of category that you're attaching to yourself. And then the third thing is, which I think spills over into then even more unhealthiness, is um, just justifying your behaviors based off of that category of things, which is that, oh, I'm an anxious avoidant person, therefore that's why I was behaving this way. And I don't think that that should ever be a justification for like bad behavior. I think, and sure, there's some explanations that are there. I'm not like completely saying that, okay, fine, throw them out the window and like, like basically that there's no explanation to bad behavior. Okay, it can be, but if you're long term using that as your main crutch of like, oh, I behave this way because of XYZ kind of personality trait or whatever, or identity I have, then you're not doing yourself or the other person any favors over here. And so then you stay in that circular loop of fulfilling that sense of identity that you have carved out for yourself. I think honesty is one of those big things that, oh, I'm an honest and transparent person with open communication. Well, what does that lead to? That leads to you then confessing and venting all the time. And in fact, it can make you into an unpleasant personality to hang out with because you will then become the person that people will associate with. Oh, he's always talking about his feelings, or she's always just like talking about some like problem in her life, or she's always like complaining about something, because it can easily go towards that, and it does go towards that for a lot of people, especially if you're an OCD sufferer, because as an OCD sufferer, you're someone who is very caught up in a lot of irrational beliefs and a lot of frustration in life, so you will have that spillover effect of going towards the cynical negative side of things as well. And even talking about like feelings and you being honest about them all the time, it can get very taxing and heavy for the other person, because you might be doing it, oh, because I'm open and honest and I always communicate about my feelings, and the other person may not always want to talk about feelings that much all the time. But again, like I said, it, and I'm not saying that even towards you. I was like that myself as well. I talked about my feelings all the damn time. I could not stop talking about my feelings and emotions. Oh, I feel this way today or that way today. And it was, and the company I also had at the time, I'm still friends with them. It wasn't bad company, it was really good company, but at the time it was a very enabling sort of environment where I was just talking about my feelings all the time, and I think those people were also talking about their feelings all the time, and then it was just this like big, like fest of expressing your feelings and like psychoanalyzing your feelings and your thoughts and behaviors. That, oh, I behave this way and that way, and this is what I'm feeling, and that's why I'm feeling it, and this is where it comes from, and this is what I'm thinking of doing about it, and all that entire like then cycle. So what you have to really think about is, well, number one is, if you're someone who is really really attaching yourself to that sense of identity that strongly, the first thing is you have to get comfortable with losing some parts of who you are. And will always mostly be some parts of yourself, because it won't be a complete revamp of every single part of you. And I'm not saying that as like a reassurancy thing. I'm saying that as being realistic. Like, I mean, I've changed my behaviors which were people pleasing, because they were also, not only were they compulsive, I mean, even if they weren't compulsive or like an OCD behavior, they were just not like helping me or anyone else at all, and it was leading to a lot of like unhealthiness in life. But I've changed that as a part of myself, and that's a huge change. But at the same time, like a lot of people that meet me, they're like, oh, you're still the same person, even though I don't feel like the same person. I'm like very different. But I think the reason that they probably, I mean, say that is because when I'm with them, I'm making the same kind of like jokes. I'm still just like a bit like slapstick at times and just a bit silly and all those sorts of things. um, and in some ways they still see me as the same, even though internally I feel different. But I also don't have to convince them that, oh no, I'm not the same person, I'm a different person, because a lot of people will also feel like, no, they have to like announce to the other person, oh no, but I'm not the same person, I've changed now. There has to be no announcement of it, like at all. Like it can just be an internal process just for you yourself, and that's all, and you can just sleep at night with that. It doesn't, you don't have to go on this like announcement tour of telling each and every single person, close person, past, present, and future, that hey, this is who I am, this is who I used to be, and this is who I am now, right? So but but the changes that I've experienced have helped me so much. Look, on paper, if you really think about it, if even if we take away the title of people pleasing, if we take that away, and if we look at, okay, what are the behaviors I was doing? I was I was helping people out with their problems. I was listening to their problems for hours. I was doing favors for people. I was at times, if someone needed, I was lending them money. um, I was taking part in activities when, you know, someone needed a person to fill in or whatever. I was there for them. On paper, those are the things I was doing. But when you like then actually look at what was happening altogether as a result of it, it was a very unsustainable way of living. And I probably would have like, I mean, obviously this is an exaggerated way of saying it, but I probably would have like self-combusted if I had continued living that way, because it was getting extremely exhausting. A lot of OCD sufferers who are people pleasers are exhausted because of this, because when they're out and about with people, and or even just like sitting at home with their husband or wife, they're just feeling like they have to be on their toes, because they cannot take the risk of upsetting their partner in any way. So, and that's really exhausting. So, on paper, all those notions and all those behaviors were really good. Like, if someone observed that just from the outside and was like, oh, this person is this way, they would say good things. And they did say good things about me. They like, people liked me because they were like, oh, he's so helpful and he's so this and that and whatnot. Um, but it was just so bad. I wasn't enjoying that at all. Like I started, it started to come to a point where it became extremely unenjoyable. In fact, so changing those seemingly good behaviors and good values actually ended up in me becoming a far more balanced person, um, and as we also say, like a far more enhanced and polished version in some ways of my own self. Like I said, I still, in many ways, I'm still the same person, but a more refined version of who I am. And that's for, and I'm glad that I changed my identity because of that, and who I was then, because it opened me up to so many other things in life that I just never really paid attention to before, I never saw before. And I think that, like, if you, people, like, you know, sometimes in interviews or whatever, you're asked that, so how would you describe yourself in 5 words, or like, or what are like 5, you know, adjectives you would use to describe yourself? I've never had a clue how to answer that question, because, and I know this sounds just very like new age or whatever, but I really do not see myself as, oh, this is who I am, or I'm an extrovert or introvert, or I'm this or that. I don't know. I mean, like some days I feel I'm a bit more introverted. Some days I feel like I'm a bit more extroverted. Some days I'm in a more I don't know, helpful mood, and some days I'm just like, leave me alone. Like I can be a little bit moody sometimes, right? But of course, like navigating through that moodiness has like become like far more balanced. I used to be very 0 or 100, but now I'm far more balanced about it. But my point being that it's like I'm very open to maybe in the next decade, me not being who this is right now today, and I like this. I enjoy this. There's nothing particularly bad that comes from this, but like I'm also open to if there's anything else that might happen to my personality as I go on. um, and it's an ever evolving process as well. That's how you have to see it, because if you're someone who is, I don't know, 35 years old, and you're like, no, since I was 20 years old I was always this kind of person, that's also not a great kind of like way of thinking about it, because you're going to be then taking a lot of personality traits that were perhaps suited to you when you were 20 years old, but not suited to you now when you're 35 years old, perhaps moving into a house with a partner, about to have a child, or about to get married, or things like that. Because even if it's like good things, even if it's good things, some good things are also not sustainable. They're good for some period of time, but then they're not great for later on when you become older, right? So I think you really do have to, and again, this goes back to one of the videos I made before, which is like contextualize. You do have to be able to contextualize certain things. I think that my helping behaviors were, they served me up till a certain point in time. I think up till maybe when I was in, maybe to some, up till I in grade 8 middle school maybe. Beyond that point it stopped becoming helpful. It started going into that bad territory, and that's where I had to kind of like give it up, because again, I'm still someone who likes supporting people. I mean, I'm an OCD coach. I like helping people still, but it's not with this pressure of like I have to help people. It must be this, because if it's not this, then it like, I mean, I'm okay with also not being like a helper a lot of the times as well. And that's the comfort I have to have with not following my values all the time. You don't have to follow your values all the time. You don't have to follow who you are all the time. And there's a lot of like uncertainty that comes with that kind of fear as well. The, life changing, your circumstances changing, your relationships kind of like changing as a result of your identity kind of changing as well. And you have to break that down into like those separate fears as well. Like what are exactly your fears? Is your fear that your dynamic with, let's say, your friends and family will change? Okay, breaking that down, why is that so horrifying? Your dynamic with, let's say, with HOCD sufferers, there's a fear that my dynamic with the opposite sex is going to change, or how I will be perceived by the opposite sex will be changed. So breaking that down into what exactly are the fears that you have with losing your identity as well, because it's not just a case of, oh, I'm going to lose who I am. It's also then far more than just like that surface level kind of fear. Uh, with 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 what do you think that your change in identity will lead to is what you need to look at. So um so yeah, I think just the concept of identity itself, I think it's just like, it's not great. I think you, because then you limit yourself as a person as well, in terms of what you can do, the opportunities you get in life, even career wise. It can be a limiting factor if you're like, oh no, I'm just this like person who does this kind of things. Then you're automatically going to become blind to any other good career opportunities that might come your way. And if a lot of people watching this, even if you're an OCD sufferer, I'm sure that your life has a lot of the times taken unexpected turns, things that you weren't even expecting to happen in a good way. And perhaps those were things that you didn't see yourself doing, or even going after, but they have become such like good cornerstones of your life. I think in my early 20s, especially when I was really badly suffering with OCD, I had pretty much just accepted that, yeah, I'm a demotivated guy, or I'm not someone who wants bigger things in life. I'm just like kind of this mid-tier guy. That's just who I am. I don't like big things in life. I don't like luxury. I'm not this person. And I'm still not that kind of person, by the way. But it's just that I was in my head, I had just limited myself so much, because I was like, yeah, I'm just a low-key person. And that literally became like a big identity thing for many years. But I'm glad I gave myself a shot in so many ways, like recovery wise, personality wise, career wise, just general life goals as well. Because That's what has brought me here. And if I go back 10 years, I never would have thought I would be here. Not because of the hopelessness, but because I didn't think I was someone who was capable of achieving the things that I have achieved, or I have done. I just didn't see myself as who I am. I didn't think I would be someone who could do something like being an OCD coach, like which is a pretty 24/7 kind of job. And but yeah, I mean it's a surprise. But I wouldn't have been in this position if I had stuck to that sense of identity that I'm a low key guy. I don't like, too much going on in life all at the same time. I like taking things slow. I like taking things one step and just like easy. No change would have happened. And by the way, at the time I also saw that as good traits because I was like, yeah, I'm a low key guy. That's a good thing to have because I'm easygoing. But I mean, at the same time, it like now I look back and I'm like, that was super compulsive because I was doing that because I had one of my biggest core fears was a fear of being overwhelmed and exhausted. And the reason I had adopted this like, oh, I'm a low key guy kind of personality trait was because I was actually just trying to avoid and keep away from any possibility in life of stepping into something overwhelming and exhausting. So yeah, I'm glad I changed that, and I'm glad I kind of like shed that one step at a time. So think about some of these things. Also, just one last thing. I think just that one thing I've said that I changed that and I shed that over time. The one last thing I want to say is that changing your identity, again quotation marks, it's not something that, oh, I'm going to accept this and change this about myself, and therefore tomorrow when I wake up I'm going to be this like, I don't know what I will be, this like huge uncertain different kind of person who has lost themselves and whatnot. Yeah, that's not how it is. Like, you're, like I said, like the change in you as a person does not happen like overnight. It's not like, oh, now I'm this different person, blah blah. Like, it's something that happens very gradually over time, over months, over years, as a personality. Like, I recovered from OCD about what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And I mean, but even 3 years ago to now, 2025, like I'm a very different person even after the fact that I recovered. So it's not just that, oh, I recovered, I became a different person, and since then I've been the same person. No, I've changed a lot even since then as well. And not even actively. I haven't been actively sitting down to be like, okay, how do I keep changing myself? No, like, it just happened. It just happened because of life itself, experiences itself, and just me also turning 30 and like evaluating my life and all those sorts of things. So, like I said, a lot of your changes will not only happen one step at a time and gradually, but also a lot of the times they will happen without you even knowing they will happen. So, guys, half an hour of me talking, like, isn't that the, biggest gift in life? I don't think so. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you stayed till the very end of this video and let me know your thoughts, comment on this, tell me what you've struggled with in terms of identity. And yeah, I'd be happy to answer you guys. Take care, guys. Bye.